Alright, I'm sure by now all of you avid Mouseketeers are aware of the most recent wave of price hikes at the parks, most newly focused on the obsessively committed fan base of annual pass holders. And as if any time ticket prices for the happiest place on earth take a turn north, people have gotten, well, a bit grumpy. Many are crying foul of their beloved company. They say the mouse has stepped too far and that Disneyland is bleeding their fans dry purely in the name of profit. But are they really? Is this just a corporate vendetta, the bigwigs twirling their curled mustaches from their penthouse suites? Not so much. Well, not entirely, anyway. I'm very sure Disney is considering their overhead and their profits never hurt, but there's a lot more that goes into a decision to raise prices, especially when they know from experience that there'll be a bit of a backlash. So let's take a moment to do a bit of critical thinking and dive into a crash course entitled Geekanomics 101. Oh, and don't worry, I went to college, so I know what I'm talking about. Beat fear tick! So, the first thing up on the lesson plan to discuss is the basic economic concept of supply and demand. Seems simple enough, right? Good, then keep up. The basic idea is this: a company sells a product or service which is known as their supply. The amount of people wanting that particular supply is known as the demand. Supply and demand are heavily related, and one cannot change without affecting the other. Too much of your supply, and the demand will drop. Not enough, and the scarce supply will cause demand to skyrocket. Think of supply and demand as going on a ride. Oh, where to show an example of that? Oh, Disneyland, right. As convenient as it would be, supply and demand do not correlate on an even plane, which would make for a very smooth, even snack-filled ride. Ooh, candy! The needs of the free market change constantly, and staying in one place is a quick way to get run over. If the economy worked like this, gas would still cost a nickel, and Tomorrowland would still look a lot like 1955. We keep moving forward, right? Conversely, the economy doesn't tend to jump or drop too drastically, like some kind of broken service elevator. Sure, sometimes something can cause a spike, but overall, those tend to not drastically affect things. In truth, the economy follows a more gradual curve. It drops, adjustments are made, and it goes back up again. I hope this ride analogy is staying on track. Companies walk the balancing act of supply and demand constantly, adjusting to meet the fluctuations as soon as possible after they happen. A good company attempts to make the adjustments before they happen to lessen the downward curve as much as possible. So now that we understand the basics, why have the Disney parks been raising their ticket prices? Is it supply or demand? A bit of both, actually. First up, let's talk supply. While there are many, many, many different products available from Disney, a Disneyland ticket doesn't actually get you a physical thing. When you buy a one-day ticket or an annual pass, you are paying for an experience. One of the company's slogans in the parks is "We create happiness." So, in a way, you can think of Disneyland's products as happiness itself. And as the majority of Disney fans would agree, they deliver. The problem is this: more and more people are flooding through the turnstiles every year, which makes for longer wait times, less cast member to guest interaction, and an overall crowded experience. The cast members do their very best every day to bring their guests the same exemplary level of service that Disney is famous for. But with so many people piling down Main Street USA, it's getting more and more difficult. And people keep coming. Of course, more people means more ticket sales for Disney, but if something isn't done soon, the product they offer will suffer. Disneyland's supply, or the ability to create happiness, will drop. And the unfortunate truth of it is that the avid Disney fanatics are unintentionally causing the drop in supply by loving it so much. With so many people coming so many times per year, it's putting quite the strain on the old Orange Grove. Then there's demand, and boy, is there a doozy of demand on the horizon. Unless you've been living on Hoth, you probably know about the extensive addition of Star Wars Land on the way to the parks. Now, while from a supply perspective, this addition is going to add 14 or so acres of supply space, but demand is going to jump into hyperspace as folks flood into the parks. So, supply is low and demand is high. As any economist can tell you, that means that the product is much more valuable. As such, any responsible company will be forced to raise the cost of the supply to lower demand and help the two meet. So, as the price creeps up, we must remember that the economy, much like the Force, has a dark side and a light. The biggest thing that people are crying Darth Walt over is that the higher ticket and pass cost has been pricing out families who love Disney. While no one at Disneyland wants to keep people away from the place they love, the sad truth is they need to. Disneyland is not a right, it is an entertainment luxury. It has set the standard for theme parks for the last 60 years, and if it's going to continue to do so, it needs to keep the crowds at a manageable level. Yes, it means some families may have to sacrifice their annual pass and maybe make the pilgrimage once this year, but the company would rather you have one amazing experience than a dozen or so mediocre ones. Quality over quantity. And therein lies the light. You're paying more, but you're getting more. Shorter wait times and less people means you'll need less time in the park to experience everything, and more can be added for you to enjoy. But let's face it, we're all addicts. Many of us simply cannot do without our Disney fix, and as such, we continue to pay for it. You'll grumble, you'll gripe, but renewal time will roll around, and again, there you'll be at the ticket booths, and subsequently, prices will continue to go up until enough people choose not to renew and the prices will level out. So, before you go storming into City Hall demanding prices to drop back to a couple of bucks, I hope you will find yourself more informed and less enraged. If you still feel the cost is too high and you want to make sure that your opinion is known, there's a simple solution: abstain from the parks. Now, since you and I both know that that probably isn't going to happen, do your best to remember what that money is buying you. Acceptance is the first step. I hope you've enjoyed Geekonomics 101. Next semester, you'll begin calculating just how much Mickey must be spending to keep dating Minnie year after year without having to pop the question